Okay, so today's class is Man You Whitney. Let me share my screen and then start talking about it. So this is one of the short questions that is going to come. So we already went through during the assignments as such, but let's take a second round of it because this is a short 10 marks question that is going to come for sure. So what is Man U Whitney test? So not sure whether you remember what we spoke during t-test, right? So this is t-test equivalent in the world of non-parametric tests. Again, we have a concept of parametric and non-parametric test. Parametric test has got so many limitations. The sample size has to be large. It has to follow the normal distribution and all those stuff. So when you are actually trying to compare two things and trying to draw a conclusion, that's where t-test is used. So you are trying to actually take two groups and you are testing the hypothesis. So basically it is used to test the hypothesis when you are actually comparing two things and making the hypothesis on. You're going to say that, okay, let's to give an example, you are trying to actually compare uh, uh, MS psychology marks of male students and female students and trying to make a conclusion that gender matters. And I mean, these two groups are different. That means, I mean, so so from MS psychology point of view, the performance of male students is different from the performance of the female students. If that is the hypothesis that you are actually drawing out, t-test is used. Same problem statement in case of non-parametric scenario, Mann-Whitney U-test is used. So Mann-U-Whitney test is the non-parametric version of t-test. So whatever the problem statements that you are actually seeing for t-test, the same things would be applied to Mann-U-Whitney, except the variable types are different. So when t-test is not a possibility, you go to Mann-U-Whitney test. T-test is one of the very frequently used tests. So that is, so Mann-U-Whitney test is more frequently used than t-test because t-test has got so many restrictions, which Mann-U-Whitney test would remove it. Whatever that we learned in last class, the Kruskal-Wallis test, that is actually derived using this Mann-U-Whitney test. So this forms the basis for Kruskal-Wallis as well. Okay, so this is one of the most important, what do you say, as statistical algorithm, which is very frequently used. And to be very simple, it is used to test hypothesis. You are taking two groups and making some conclusion whether these groups are different or whether they are same. Okay, so that's exactly what you are doing in case of Mann-U-Whitney test. So any questions till now? Okay, so there are no questions here. So there is one thing which is very common across all the all the non-parametric tests. So in case of non-parametric test, see there is you have a central tendency. We talked about central tendency, right? What is central tendency? Mean, median, mode, if you remember. So the way the t-test really works is basically how you are going to compare these two groups, whether these two groups, whatever that I have, are different or not. The way that it really does is it calculates the mean of the population and compares the mean of population between these two groups. Okay, so that is the basis for the algorithm. So we would have solved using different steps, but the basis of the algorithm is about comparing means of these two. If these means are not different, if I have same average, in this group and this group, that means there is no difference between these two groups. If the mean is different, that means two groups are different. So I can reject this particular null hypothesis, right? So that's how it is measured. But when it comes to a non-parametric test, what happens is mean doesn't hold any good. You have rank data, let's say. Okay, so you have 50 students and you collected ranks. I ranked the students, and now I'm taking mean of these ranks. Does it signify anything? It's actually crap, right? Always in 50 students, I'll be having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, up to 50 as ranks. How different would my score be if I take ranking of 50 girl students, 50 boy students, and compare the mean? What would happen is I would get the same mean. It doesn't make sense when it comes to a non-parametric test to compare mean. So what we actually do, so this Mann-Whitney test, for, I mean, it stands on the basis of comparing the median as the central tendency, not mean. Okay, so this is true for most of the non-parametric tests. Non-parametric test base really, is different from whatever the base of parametric test. Parametric test mostly falls into that base of, comparing the mean and those kind of things, variance and all those stuff. Here, this is standing on comparing the median. So it is applicable to even Kruskal values, because Kruskal values ultimately is drawing out of these basics only. It is an extension of these particular basics. So comparing the median is the basis for Mann-Whitney test, and Mann-Whitney test is the basis for Kruskal values. So you can see this particular thing, this unlike t-test, it doesn't compare mean score, rather it does on median. Okay, so that is what this statement really means. Okay, so you will just find out whether there is a difference, whatever the difference that you have between the medians is a significant difference or not, is what is the entire thing is about. But the way that you calculate is little different. We'll come to that particular calculation, how we calculate it. And it is a very, very simple algorithm to actually, very simple, thing to calculate as well. Okay. So until now, is it clear?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So yeah, I'll explain these two statements a little later. Okay, once we solve the problem, don't worry about them. They are not very important to understand at this stage. Okay, so obviously this is more robust even if the data is little outliers, right? And this is the basis for a lot of non-parametric algorithms, and one is Kruskal values, as we talked. Okay, so you have two groups here as well. You are comparing these two groups, and obviously the sampling is random. They are independent of each other. These are like very basic for any kind of a thing. I mean, you have to sample it in a proper way. So this can actually measure for anything. It need not to be just a ratio or interval. It can do it for ordinal as well. So only thing that these algorithms doesn't work is the nominal data, because nominal doesn't have any value associated with it, right? So I can't really put a value for something like a city name. There is nothing like order that I can actually get it out to. So these things would not really work if my data is of nominal type. So this works from ordinal to any type of data. Okay, so this needs to be a continuous variable. Observations need not to be a normally distributed, as such, right? And there can be like even smaller size, minimum of 5. It can reach to 20 or even greater than that, for that matter, if it is a non-parametric. I mean, if it is an ordinal data or whatever it is, right? And the formula really looks like this. Okay, so there are two things. One is U1 and the other one is U2. So there are two formulas. So you will calculate group 1 for group 2 kind of a thing. Okay. So how this is done? Generally, how you actually do it is, obviously for any problem statement, first step is you are going to write what is null hypothesis, what is alternate hypothesis. In case of null hypothesis, most often you don't really require to prove anything. That is what is the null hypothesis. What you are proving goes as an alternate hypothesis. Okay. So first is for all problems, first is defining the hypothesis, and then rest of the procedure really starts. Okay. So now how do you actually do this? So let's say I have this particular data where I'm trying to actually prove effectiveness of a drug. So I'm checking the what do you say as asthma level in children, and then I am actually trying to do without drug and with the drug, and just checking whether there is any improvement in the asthma or not. So number of episodes of shortness of breath over 1 week. So for the people who are taking drug and for the people who are not taking drug. So I have 10 people here, and for half of them, what I did not give any drug. Kind of, I gave some drug which is not really effective. So basically, it is a dummy drug, placebo. And for half of them, we gave the drug. And this happens randomly, right? So for any sampling, for that matter, in a randomized way. So randomly divide the group and then give this particular, make certain observations. And then calculated number of times that these people really felt shortness of breath. Okay. And people who are in placebo or people who are in drug, they don't know which group that they belong to. So it is random, and the effect is measured. Okay. So this is the problem statement. Now, using non-Whitney test, we are going to find out whether there is a difference between these two groups or not. Seeing it, you might really say that there is a difference, but is this difference significant is what is the question. So you are eliminating that natural error that could happen. Okay. So the point here is not a simple comparison. So this is applicable to all the algorithms that we are talking about. So the thing is about statistically significant or not is the question here. Okay, so this is the problem statement. So what is the null hypothesis here? Anyone to say what is the null hypothesis? Hello? Anyone take a dig at null hypothesis?
There is no significant difference between the two treatment.
Perfect. So to start with, you are saying that drug is not really effective. It doesn't make any difference. So your null hypothesis is there is no significant difference. Okay. So if you are able to prove, then only we are going to tell that, oh yeah, drug makes the difference. Okay. So now what is this graph? So this graph is just to share that whatever the values that I have is not really a normally distributed data. It is like random. So this is not a normal distribution. Okay. So what is the first step? Post hypothesis, obviously. My second step is ranking the data. So remember what we did using in the Kruskal valleys? You made all of them into one group and then we ranked them. Here also same thing, you rank them. Okay, and we know what is the thumb rule that we follow when there is duplicate values. We calculate the average of those ranks.
Yeah, add
Fourth
and
rank.
divide.
Yeah, exactly. 4 plus 5 divided by 2. Here 7 plus 8 divided by 2. Okay, so placed all the entries in the ascending order and then ranked them. That is the first step. Second step, we calculate sum of these ranks. Okay, sum of these ranks. That means for placebo, if I just take these ranks, what is the sum? For new drug, if I take these ranks, what is the sum? Okay, so I have sum of ranks for this, sum of ranks for this. Clear? So now what you are going to do, the next thing is just calculate the U. Simple. Okay, so what is the formula that needs to be used? N1 into N2 plus, if I am calculating for the first group, I am going to say N1 into N1 plus 1 divided by 2 minus R1. Okay, so here what I am going to do is N1 is 5. 5 into 5 plus, that is N1 into N2, 5 into 5 plus 5, 5 plus 1, 6 divided by 2 minus 37. Okay, that's equal to 3. Similar way, I calculate U2 as well. Okay, so U2 is 22. U1 is 21, U2 is 22. Any doubts in the formula that we are actually talking about here? Did everybody understand this formula?
Yeah.
Yes.
Pretty easy formula to remember and very straightforward calculation. So you calculate U1 and U2. Okay. Now, as usual, like any other algorithm, you go and check what is the critical value of U. Okay. So we have a table here to calculate the critical value. So there is multiple tables here. Okay. So using N1 and N2, you calculate what is the critical value. So if I take 0.05 as my level of significance, N1 is 5, N2 is 5. That means the critical value here is
2 is it?
2. Exactly. Exactly. So now I have here, generally in case of variance. Okay. So this is what is the thing that you will have to remember. Okay. So this is 5, right? So basically I got critical value according to table is 2, right? So now you are going to compare this critical value with the obtained value, right? Compare. Right? So what you have is obtained value, which is 3, is greater than critical value, which is 2. Okay, so how do you actually conclude now? Should you actually reject the null hypothesis or should you accept the null hypothesis? Anyone wants to take a guess?
Reject. 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 The obtained value is greater.
That is where you guys are wrong. So this is U test. You take a U-turn when compared to all other algorithms.
Okay.
In case of all other algorithms, when your obtained value is greater than critical value, you reject it.
Correct.
But here you do reverse.
No,
obtained value has to be lesser than critical value, then you reject.
Okay, okay.
Okay, so remember this is a U test, so it takes a U-turn. That is the hint. Okay. So for rest of the things, even for that matter, Kruskal values and all, if your obtained value is large enough, then you reject it, because there you are talking about variance. Okay, this is not a variance. The U doesn't measure the variance. So in this particular case, what happens is you will have to obtain lesser value than critical value, then you can reject the null hypothesis. So your conclusion is okay. So that is what is the U test. It takes a U-turn.
So it doesn't matter that Mann-Whitney U test is for non-parametric test, is it? It has got its own rule.
So yeah, the way that U is calculated, that is I mean that is the basis for this particular conclusion, that you will have to have a lesser U when compared to the critical value. So
Okay.
it is not about parametric and non-parametric here. It is about the way the algorithm really works. Okay. So Kruskal values is also non-parametric, but you will have to, your obtained value has to be greater than critical value to reject the null hypothesis there. Okay. It's only this algorithm which takes the U-turn. Okay. Is that clear?
Yeah. Thanks.
So, Praveen, we always go with two-tailed table, is it? Values?
Not really. So two-tailed means that you are cutting off both the borders. Okay. Usually you take two-tailed. So unless and until you feel that both ends are not there, like, I mean, so basically you want to cut the both ends, let's say, then you take two-tailed. If you want to take only one end, then you take one-tailed. So general thumb rule is, if there is no mention of it, when you are comparing two groups, you take two-tailed. Okay.
Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah. So two-tailed is the safer bet when you are actually, comparing, because you are not really, you are trying to actually, seal the both end. You are actually, you don't want in either of those particular ends. So this is not one directional. So you take two-tailed in general. Okay. So is the procedure clear? Actually, it is a very straightforward problem to solve, except that last U-turn. I think everything else is like pretty straightforward. Okay, so should we solve the problem together or go to the Wilcoxon and then come back to solving the problem? So there is not much in the Wilcoxon matched pair. Here we are not really learning how to solve it. So let's understand the difference here. So in case of, we'll come back to the problem solving once we cover this Wilcoxon, and then we'll come back. Okay, Wilcoxon matched pair signed rank sum test. Okay, so what really this test is? This is again a non-parametric test. So if you see this particular table, right? So generally these are the categories. Okay, you have parametric test, you have non-parametric test. We are very well versed with these two terminologies. We have within subjects and between the subjects. What exactly this means? Okay, this also we touched upon in previous classes, but I'm just repeating it again because that is exactly what makes this Wilcoxon different from Mann-Whitney. What is between subjects? I'm testing two groups. I'm taking two groups and then testing it. That is what is between the subjects. So I have 5 people whom I just simulated the drug, and I have different 5 people whom I gave this drug. So I have 2 different groups. It is not the same group. Group 1, I did not give any drug. Group 2, I gave the drug. 2 individuals. It is not the same individual which I have tested. In case of within subjects, you are not testing it with 2 different groups. You are only testing it on the same person twice. So what you did, you take a test now without giving drug, and then give the drug and take the test for the same person after some time to check how effective the drug is again. But you are testing the same individual. So that means same group of people, I will test it before test and I'll test it after test. That is what is within subjects. Okay. So when the scenario is about within subjects, okay, then when I do parametric test, it would be a dependent t-test. Whatever that we learned before was an independent t-test, which is between the subjects. It is also called as, this dependent t-test is also called as paid t-test. So in t-test class, I have actually explained 3 types of t-test there. So in that, paid t-test is one of those. I don't know whether, you remember it or not. Paid t-test or dependent t-test is within the subjects. Okay, so equivalent of paid t-test in non-parametric world is Wilcoxon matched Paids test. Okay. So again, these assumptions you can blindly write. The moment you know this non-parametric test, this is parametric test, you can just simply write these particular assumptions. Some assumptions are pretty obvious, that okay, distribution differences is symmetric, differences is mutually independent, all differences have the same median, measurement scale is at least interval scale. Actually, these are all basic standards in which the way that you actually do the sampling ultimately. So in case of non-parametric tests, assumptions are quite loose. So it would be mostly all these basic assumptions that would actually come into picture. In case of parametric test, the assumptions would also encompass that it should have a sufficient sample size, then the variables needs to follow the normal distribution and all those things. Okay, so pretty straightforward assumptions. But what you need to understand is under what context this Wilcoxon matched pair test is used. This is like again you are comparing 2 groups, but it is not 2 different groups, rather the same group, one before test and one after test. Okay, to check the effectiveness of that particular drug. That is what is within subjects, and it is Wilcoxon matched pair test that you actually end up doing it if it is a non-parametric value that you are computing. Okay. Any questions in terms of context of Wilcoxon? So in this we don't generally get problem solving. It is mainly the theoretical question that would come, and it might really ask you to give an example. So obviously you can construct the example if you know what this particular test is all about. Okay, and it is a non-parametric test. It is used within the subjects. Okay, so and the equivalent for the same in the parametric test is dependent t-test or paid t-test. So That is exactly is Wilcoxon. Any questions here? We can go and solve this particular Mann-Whitney test together, and we can conclude. Any
I have
questions?
no question. I have no question.
Okay, cool. So let me just share the whiteboard and we can solve the problem. Okay, so let's take the same example where I'm talking about placebo group with these scores. I'm just giving the random, I don't know. What is the result of it? I don't know. We are going to solve it together. Once you take new drug, okay, let me to make it easy. Let me keep it 2. Okay. So now, what is the first step? Anyone?
Ascending order.
First one
Rank
you
them in ascending
rank.
order.
Rank.
Yeah.
Okay. So now let me just put them into the ascending order.
1, 3, 4,
How many 4s?
2 4s are there. 3
3,
5s.
5. Yes.
And then 2 7s. 1 10.
Cool. Okay. The equivalent
Hmm.
ranks. This is rank 1.
1 2. This is 4 and
Any takers?
this is actually third and fourth.
1,
3.5.
2, 3.5, 3.5,
3.5.
6,
Correct.
7.5, 7.5.
Is 7.5?
Wait,
4.5. 4.5.
Is 6.
6.
And then
Because
7.5.
I'll tell you why.
9.
Let me
8.5,
just
8.5.
let me take this stock here. So basically, if you're talking about these 3,
Yeah.
it is rank 5,
5,
6,
6 and 7.
and 7.
So it will
5
be
plus
6.
6 plus 7 divided by 3 is 6. Okay.
Yeah, understood.
And then
Yeah.
8.5, 8.5.
8 and 9.
5, 8.5. Right? So this is for this. This is for this. Okay. And what about 10? It is 10.
10.
10 is 10.
Yes. So now what are the so what is the next step?
We have to place the ranks, the new ranks beside the old rank.
Yeah.
The old
Correct.
numbers.
So 10 is 10th rank.
10, 8.5,
Let
3.5,
me just
6,
create the
6,
space.
Yeah.
6. Then the second one.
10 is 10.
10, 8.5.
8.5.
Yeah. Right.
3.5.
And
3.5.
3.5.
6.
6.
6.
6 again.
The
This
next.
is again 6.
Yeah, the next,
Next
for the
also
new
6.
drug, it is 6.
6
Right.
and 6 and 3.5.
This is 6.
6, 3.5,
3.5.
3.5.
8.5.
3.5 and 1.
2 and 1. 2
Oh,
and
2
1.
and 1. Sorry, 2 and 1.
Now
Okay.
you have
So
to sum
now
the
what is
ranks.
rank 1? Yes.
Rank 1 is 10, 8. 35.
34.
44?
34, 34, 34.
34. Right. 12 plus 10, 22. 22 plus again 12.
34, yeah.
34. And rank 2,
27.
27. So what is U? That is U1. Anybody remember the formula? N1
N1
into
into
N2
N2 plus
plus
N1 into N1 plus 1 divided by R1.
correct.
Sorry.
No,
Oh, wait,
not
wait,
divided by
divided
R1. Divided
minus
by
R1.
2 minus R1.
Ah.
Yes.
I have a doubt in
What
this
is
R2. R2, the total is not 27, no?
Yeah, it's not 27.
Okay, what is the total?
It is
Any
9 plus
calculator?
12.
This is 12 plus
No, no.
9.
21.
Yeah.
21.
Oh, sorry, 21.
Yeah, 21.
sorry. 12.
Okay,
So-
so what is N1 5 into 6 divided by
Divided
2
by 2 minus
34.
34.
That is equal to 25
25
plus
plus
15
30 plus
minus
50
34
minus. So it will be
is 6.
40 minus
6.
6.
Right?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, now U2.
U2 will be 5 into 5.
25 plus 5 into 6 there also, which is 50 minus
Minus 12.
21.
Minus 21.
What is it?
19. 19.
19. The smaller value is 6. Let's actually take that and compare. If I go to the table, somebody go to the table and check what is the value. Are you able to see the screen still?
Yeah, we can
Yeah.
see the whiteboard.
5 and 5. What is the value? 2. 2 is the value. So what should we determine? Where is the whiteboard?
We are seeing whiteboard only.
Yeah, we see one.
I am not able to see whiteboard.
So the answer is 2 again, right?
Yeah, 2.
2. Okay. So
And
here
what is the
2
obtained
means
value? We have 6 as the value, right?
6 and 2. So we cannot reject.
Exactly. So that means drug is not good enough. That's it.
Good.
Yeah, done.
Good practice.
So anything else, or should we stop the recording? I think we can stop the recording now.